If, like me, you grew up during the 1990s, you probably remember that Hyundai wasn't exactly a good car brand. I mean, sure, the South Korean car maker would build affordable vehicles, but they weren't exactly fun to look at, fun to drive, or particularly well built. However, at the turn of the millennium, Hyundai really got its act together, and we witnessed a rapid evolution in its models. Sophistication, performance, technology, and reliability all really got better, to a point where Hyundai was challenging the Japanese and German car brands, and in some cases, even beating them at their own game. In 2015, Hyundai went even further. It unleashed its luxury division that it would be called Genesis, and to my biggest surprise, as well as the entire industry, Genesis caught on pretty fast. We saw the G80 and G90 luxury sedans, and these cars were fantastic. They really proved to consumers that you could indeed get Mercedes-Benz levels of luxury and craftsmanship at a bargain price. Unfortunately though, the brand was still missing one important vehicle in its lineup, and that was a sport utility vehicle. Well, you know what? Genesis just built one. It's called the GV80, and yes, as you probably realized, it is based on the G80 sedan I mentioned earlier. It's a brand new SUV, the first one from Genesis, and it really has everything it takes to take on the competition. More importantly, it aims at promising to offering consumers more for their money, and more than ever before. Let's go for a ride and see if they've succeeded with this bad boy. Normally, when I book these press vehicles, car makers will be eager to give me a full equipped model. I mean, what they want to do is allow us journalists to showcase all the latest technology, have the vehicle with the nicest wheels, the nicest gadgets, and also to wow us as much as possible so we like the car. But in this case, I tried to do things differently. I asked Genesis Canada to lend me the lowest spec GV80 because I wanted people to see how much they were getting for their money. I was also genuinely curious to see what you're getting in the lower trim levels. The pricing strategy for Genesis is, by the way, very straightforward. There are only 4 trim levels here in Canada. All of them come with all-wheel drive. Pricing will range between $64,000 and $86,000. The one you see here is the second of the smaller entry-level trim levels. It's priced at $70,000. 2 engines are available. So this is the baby engine, and trust me, there's nothing baby about it. It's a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's good for 300 horsepower and 311 foot-pounds of torque. It's mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and like I said earlier, all-wheel drive is standard. When you climb the ladder, there's a twin turbocharged V6 engine, a 3.5-liter. That one is good for 375 horsepower and 392 foot-pounds of torque. I drove that one and it was very impressive. This engine has a lot of power, it's very smooth, and normally when you put a 4-cylinder underneath the hood of a large SUV, you tend to end up with livelier handling. The front end is lighter, there's less unsprung weight, so your steering inputs are a lot quicker, and this SUV has quite impeccable driving manners. When I was in South Korea a few years ago, I met up with the Genesis and Hyundai designers and engineers, and they were giving me a crash lesson on how they go about in developing these vehicles. One of the things you usually realize with the South Korean brands is they tend to copy the designs or technologies of other car makers, but they also make them better. It's very obvious when you look at the GV80 that they're trying to take on a Bentley Bentayga, and to be fair, it looks a lot prettier. The grille is just as imposing, and wherever I'm going with this vehicle, people actually think I'm driving a Bentley, but I'm actually driving an overpriced Hyundai. So mission accomplished from the design standpoint. Then there's the level of comfort. The first thing you notice in the GV80 is how quiet and smooth the entire cabin is, and that was also thought out by the people at Genesis. The seats are unbelievably quilted and comfortable. They're thick, well supportive, and honestly, from where I'm sitting, it just feels pretty much the same way as an expensive German vehicle. Another area where Genesis really excels at, actually the entire Hyundai and Kia group are really good at that, it's drive modes. I have a little knob right here that allows me to select between drive modes and terrain mode. So when I press on terrain, I can go between snow, mud, and sand. When I press on it again, I'm back to drive modes, and I can alternate between sport, comfort, custom, and eco. I'll put it in sport mode to get off this highway off-ramp, and let's just test out the performance. So chassis is very compliant. You feel that it's a rear biased vehicle, And even though it has a very high center of gravity, it doesn't feel like it. It feels compliant. It squats down, exits you out of the ramp. And the traction control system is actually quite intelligent. It will control, according to the ABS braking system, the wheel rotation in each wheel to simulate torque vectoring. This is obviously brake vectoring, but it does a really good job at improving handling. Honestly, why get the V6? This is quick enough. However, there is one area where this four-cylinder is very frustrating. Combined with the 8-speed transmission, the turbo engine, there's also there's an electronic throttle system. The problem with that is that there's a delay between the moment you gun the accelerator pedal and the car gets going. Let me give you an example. When I stomp the accelerator pedal, nothing happens. And if I floor, there it goes. If you're used to having like an instant throttle response of a V6 or a V8, you're not gonna like this. You're gonna get much better in the V6 engine. But if you don't care about this stuff, you're not gonna notice. And this engine does provide smooth, linear, great acceleration, and also quite decent fuel economy as well. Then there's all these semi-autonomous driving aids. You know, people like to brag that their Teslas offer autopilot, but look at this Genesis. I press on this button, I let go of the wheel, and it just does everything for me. The Koreans have really perfected it to a point where they're putting Tesla's autopilot to shame in some cases. There have also been a lot less accidents with Genesis and Hyundai Kia vehicles during autonomous mode. I can go like this for hours on end. This is artificial intelligence at its best. As long as it doesn't activate nuclear rockets, we're fine. Then there's the amount of technology this vehicle is crammed with. Again, I'm in the entry-level model, but when you climb the ladder, you can have a slew of really advanced tech in this vehicle. For instance, while I have conventional gauges, the higher-end trim levels come with augmented reality gauges. Basically, it's an entire screen, and then it will give you the illusion of having layers. I actually saw it in real life, and it's very convincing. But even this little entry-level gauge pod is quite cool. When I activate the blinker, I have, as you can see, a camera that sees the right blind spot, or one on the left that sees the left blind spot. Now, of course, this is not new. Honda developed this on the Civic back in 2014, but once again, the Koreans took the technology and made it better. Now, onto the center console. It's quick to respond. The buttons are fast. They have haptic response as well, so it feels like I'm pressing a button. There's actually a vibration when I click on the button, like on my smartphone. The center console here is what controls the infotainment system. Now, this is all new from Genesis. Check out that screen. It will change according to the day. If it's night, you'll have a night background. If it's snowing, you'll see snow, rain. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful screensavers I've seen in my life. Now, to access the menu, I just tap on this big knob right here in the middle, and it opens up the main menu up here. I want to bring your attention to another cool feature in the GV80. If I click on media, you can see here, it's in French, but what this is saying is that I can have ambient sounds. This is a coffee shop. In case you forgot what coffee shops sounded like because of the COVID-19 pandemic, well, you can be reminded when you're driving your GV80. Listen to those birds chirping. Anyway, this is one of the many functions that will be equipped in your Genesis GV80, and it will come in the lower trim levels as well. I'm just going to mute it right here. Now, I don't understand why car makers continuously try to reinvent volume knobs. I mean, let's leave it there. We figured that out a while ago. It's like a wheel. Just don't try to reposition it like right here on the console. I can mute it by pressing on it, and I can also tune my channels using this other wheel right there. Look at this entire console. It feels amazing. It feels like it's actual metal, but it's not. This is just plastic covered in some texture that looks and feels expensive. And that's something the Koreans master. It feels fresh. It feels modern. It feels like you're getting a lot for your money. And also, it makes me realize how sad it is for companies like Cadillac with vehicles like the XT6. What are these brands going to do when they're going to realize how good this Genesis is? I mean, this is up there in terms of craftsmanship, technology, performance with what the Germans are offering. In many ways, the Koreans have done what the Japanese have not been able to accomplish in over 30 years. I mean, this is a vehicle that I would personally buy. And it's very rare that I say this in these videos. But actually, it's even more embarrassing than that. Driving this GV80 makes me wonder why you would even buy the Bentley in the first place, because it humiliates much more expensive vehicles in many ways. Most of the technology it offers and the features feel, look, and touch just better. Everything just works better in this Korean product, and you're paying almost half the price of like Maseratis and really expensive BMWs. Now, obviously, the resale value may not be there yet. Genesis is still a new brand. We also don't know if it's reliable, but I mean, give it a try and see what you think. And I'm pretty certain that you're going to be impressed. Once you're going to be sold to a Korean brand, I do not think you're going to go want to buy something British or German in this price range.